Good afternoon, everyone. We are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a portfolio business on your terms. My name is Helena.
And I'm Kelly.
And we have the fantastic Drew Ellis with us at the moment. And to be honest with you, we were having a conversation just before this that I want to have about 17 conversations with Drew already. But I'm not going to give him the opportunity to say anything yet before you all either arrive or if you're doing the hashtag replay, please come and do the hashtag replay. If you're watching this on Speaker Insight, on the Speaker Insight Facebook page, please do come and join us inside the Connection Hub.
Hang on. You have feedback, Helena.
Have we got the funky feedback? Okay, are you sure?
I can hear you and you again.
Oh, how intriguing. We'll just see if we can continue, and hopefully that's not gonna work. Oh well.
You're okay for me.
Really?
Yep, sounds fine.
Oh,
okay,
well,
ask some of our viewers.
Okay, we'll ask those of you who are live what weirdness is going on in your worlds. If it is going weird, then I will be quiet for a moment whilst these two talk and see what else we can create. What we want to do is we want to ask you about the buzz in your business. So, what's exciting, what's intriguing, what's happening, what has happened that you want to be celebrating. We just want to know, in your speaker, author, coach world, what have you been up to, or what are you getting up to, more importantly. So let us know about that. For us, it has been it's such a big thing. So I'm going to play you the jingle. So that you have a little bit of time just to kind of get this going. But for us, for those of you who are inside the Connection Hub, which is that group of 10,000 plus people who are all concerned with being a speaker, author, or a coach, or people who indeed help them, like the wonderful Drew, our buzz is definitely that we launched our new course, Groups That Give and Grow, and we are just getting some terrific feedback from it. We started the challenge, and the feedback that we're getting is that, oh my word, we thought the challenge was good, but the course, oh my goodness. So if you haven't checked it out, I know that Kelly's about to put the link in, or she already has, and it's all...
if you want to grow your own Facebook group and have like an 82% engagement that we do in our groups, and we basically open up the Komodo, as what Tim Ferriss would say, and basically show you how we do it for ourselves. Jacqueline's saying the buzz in her business, she's seeing some lovely new members joining her Facebook group. She is one of the people that bought the course, and she's doing her seed launch at the moment. So great to see you, Jacqueline. She says that the sound's okay to her. So let's crack on, shall we?
Yes, let's just crack on indeed. So I do want to ask Drew, although I'm scared to, because who knows where we're going to go. This is a man who has had a history of just grabbing opportunities. Let's talk about that. So what I really want to ask first off is, what's the buzz in your business right now?
Oh my word. Okay, so there's an awful lot going on. Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Currently, I'm working on an event that's coming up on March the 31st called the Great British Business Show. The Great British Business Festival. Festival. So if you want to come along to that, do come along. If you want to exhibit, then send me an email or connect with me on all of the usual social platforms. You can find me as @Drew Ellis, all one word, DREWELLIS.
And I'm putting all the links in the comments as we speak. So that
brilliant. Okay. So I'm doing that. I also run a whole series of business breakfasts, not unlike this, every Wednesday morning, called Business Breakfast TV, which is on our platform, Like Minds platform, weareLikeMinds.com. I'm also working on a project with my digital agency for a huge estate in Wales, which is very exciting, where they're building 100 luxury lodges and tree houses for people to come and do staycations, which is obviously going to be pretty popular in the next year or so. And I am launching a startup.
Wow.
As if I wasn't busy enough.
That's the top of the iceberg, isn't it, really?
Yeah. So settle in, everyone. The chances of us making this a half-hour one very, very slim, because there is...
He's got it.
He's got to go. That's true. Okay, we are limited by time. How much fun can we have with that, right?
Okay.
We're all right until 2 o'clock with me. Actually,
okay, good. We'll push it to the edge. So
For sure.
What you'll hear is all the links to Drew's We Are Like Minds, the business festival, all those types of things are in there. We'll talk about them all a little bit during this interview. But as you can already see from Drew, an eclectic past and present is what, and that's why we brought him in to talk about opportunities, because there are times that we're in at the moment where people will sink and they will crash and burn. And there are people that will go, okay, I see an opportunity here. I'm going to float to the surface and I'm going to really make this my own. And you, knowing you, Drew, for over a decade, and knowing what you did before we met, you're one of those people that spots the opportunity, that sees things that others don't see, and you do something on it, you act on it. And so,
I do like bright and shiny things, yeah.
Yeah, but you turn them into more bright and shiny. That's the thing.
It's all in the execution. Yeah, it's all very well having an idea, but yeah, it's all about executing.
It's in succinct as possible. This is going to be quite hard in itself because I want to get into the context. Give people like a potted history of your entrepreneurial journey that involves everything from the music industry to the digital to the events to, and now we're hearing stuff about brewery and stuff, what
that was a while ago.
About your main things that you've done.
So I think the most important thing to remember with me is that although it seems very diverse, they are all connected in some way. It's not as if I'm somebody that sort of buys businesses and it's a kind of traditional conglomerate of disparate businesses. They do all overlap in some way, shape or form. But if we want to go back to the beginning, I'm a designer by training. I did a graphic design degree in Manchester and then London. And during my degree, I like most people in their late teens, early 20s, loved music. And I couldn't work out what I was going to get as a job, rather than just being a graphic designer. And somebody said, well, have you ever thought about designing record sleeves? And I thought, is that a job? Do people get paid to do that? That sounds fantastic. So I did some research and I came across a company called Hypnosis, who were the sort of preeminent record sleeve designers of the day. They designed Dark Side of the Moon and Floated the Pig over Battersea Power Station. So I bought their book and read about the whole company and how they approach designing for musicians, and came back to college, and my flatmate said, you'll never guess where I've been working. And I said, where have you been working? He said, Hypnosis. I said, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I'm going to write my thesis on record sleeve design. Could you introduce me to them and I can interview them? And he said, yeah, of course. So I went down there and I'm busy interviewing the partners. And then one of them said, what is it that you do again? And I said, well, I'm studying graphics like Lindsay is, and they said, brilliant, we need another assistant. Can you start tomorrow? And I said, well, I'm still at college. And they went, that's fine. You don't go to all the lectures, do you? And I said, no, I don't go to all the lectures. And so I used to nick off college early, go down and do a stint at Hypnosis or do a weekend with them, and did everything, made the tea, made a lot of tea, learned how to load Hasselblad cameras with film, learned how to develop in the dark room, black and white pictures in the dark room for them, did tests, did everything.
Yeah.
Picked up their children from school, was generally abused, as you do with juniors, and got my degree, and rang them up and said, how about a full-time job? And they said, well, it doesn't quite work like that. That was great to kind of have you as an assistant, but we're full now, we're fine. So I joined a little studio on Great Russell Street with a couple of illustrators who I met when I was in Manchester, when I was on foundation course in Manchester. And we were in this tiny little basement studio with no windows on Great Russell Street opposite the British Museum. And the phone rang one day and it was one of the partners at Hypnosis, and they said, we fired that assistant. Where are you? And I said, well, I'm about a 10-minute walk from you. And they said, get around here immediately. Amazing. So I ended up working for them full time, which was thrilling.
Working on some great projects as well, right?
So working with Paul McCartney, working with, we did the last Led Zeppelin album cover. crazy
Amazing.
crazy times. Yeah, lots of artists, and of course upstairs at number 6 Denmark Street was Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols. So
Yeah.
we used to see them walking up and down the stairs, the back stairs, quite often. Johnny Rotten would wear his I Hate Pink Floyd t-shirt, and I'd be thinking, please don't let Dave Gilmour come in today. It'd be hugely embarrassing. But they had a rehearsal studio behind us, which is now a listed building. I worked very hard with Henry, who founded the Save Denmark Street campaign. So
I literally walked past that the other day on my walk. I did.
Oh, right. So we've now managed to list that building, so it's not going to get knocked down with the big development that's happening.
Really
And
good.
we've got all the Sex Pistols drawings upstairs. Anyway, to cut a long story short, went to work with them, and then MTV came along. And of course, all the budgets started to move out of record sleeve design into videos.
Yeah.
And the founders of Hypnosis were film school graduates. So they wanted to start making movies. So they created a new company called Greenback Films and started pitching all the record companies for work for pop promos. So I ended up working on some of the very first pop promos with Paul Young. We did Wherever I Lay My Hat, Nick Kershaw, that sort of 80s, generation,
Yeah.
The best.
as well as the best generation. Yeah.
I'm with you.
As well as making films for Pink Floyd and the 70s sort of acts. In fact, I introduced Paul Young to his wife.
No way! What a
I know
crazy
it's a little known story, but I was. One of my tasks was to choose the models that were going to be in these films.
Oh, that's a really bad task.
Which was great. It was a tough job, that one, looking through catalogues of attractive women. So Storm had said to me, listen, I think you should pick the girl because she's nearer your age than my age, and Paul is kind of your age, so you choose. So I chose this girl, Stacey, and I remember introducing her to Paul on set. And I could just see they looked at each other, and I thought, ooh, hello.
Something there.
And they ended up getting married. So I didn't really enjoy the film industry because it's very up and down. You can work 20-hour days for 5 days on the trot, and then there's nothing for 2 weeks while you wait for the next film. So I was sort of half designing and half doing the film thing. And then I remember going to Storm and saying, look, I'd rather stick with the design side of things. And he said, I think that's a great idea. So we formed a company together with one of the other design assistants called Storm Thorgerson Designs, STD for short. Yes, which wasn't quite the brand name I was after. But anyway, Storm then got extremely busy making films because they became very successful. And so I renamed the business Icon. And another previous Hypnosis assistant joined us, and we grew that. The lease ran out at number 6, and for those of you that don't know what number 6 looks like, if you watch Strike, the J.K. Rowling TV series, that was filmed at number 6. So that was a bit weird for me seeing the interior again. It looked just the same, actually. Anyway, so we were given studio space by Dave Gilmour in Brit Row, which was Pink Floyd's recording studio. He sort of rescued us from Denmark Street and gave us a studio there, which was fantastic. And I could hear, the bands rehearsing downstairs a lot of the time. I remember one day just hearing this thumping drum beat that just went doof, 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 and it went on all day. And eventually I went downstairs and I said, guys, really, do you have to just? And they said, oh, we're really sorry that we messed up and we've had to start again. It normally doesn't take this long. And then about 2 months later, I heard this drum beat on the radio. Blue Monday.
Oh, really?
Come on.
So, yeah, that record sort of resonates with me. So we had this wonderful little studio in Brit Row. And then I got a call from Catherine Hamnett's team, who was a fashion designer back in the 1980s. And they said that they wanted some designs for a T-shirt. and could I come up with some ideas? And so I decided that what I really wanted to recreate was the front page of the Sun newspaper. You remember they just have those great big block capital front covers. And so that was how I designed Choose Life. And then I created a little patch that said Choose Life in all sorts of different languages. And I put a little code in there that was AWE, which are my initials, Andrew William Ellis, /4 /KHL, Catherine Hamlet Limited. And then the day I did the design. So there's a little code on all the T-shirts of when I did it. Which turned out to be very useful because people were stealing the ideas and printing them themselves. So that enabled Catherine to
watermarking it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like watermarking, exactly. Yeah. Brilliant. So of course, then George Michael wore it in Wake Me Up Before You Go, and then Frankie Hollywood did.
And here we are.
It just took off. Yeah. So that was very exciting.
I have one.
You have one. Okay. Actually, there's another great little story.
But I have one.
For sure.
There's another great little story with that because Catherine rang one day and she said, listen, I need you to do one that says 58% don't want Pershing. And I said, okay. She said, it's a nuclear missile that they wanted to, I think it was at Greenham Common or somewhere they wanted to have it. And she said, I'm going to number 10 to meet the Prime Minister, to meet Margaret Thatcher. And I want to wear the T-shirt.
Wow.
And I said, when are you going? And she said, in 2 hours. And I said, well, we're not going to be able to print it. You can't create a silk screen in that short. And we didn't have that kind of equipment, you know. Yeah. And she said, well, you'll have to sort it out. Think, you know, tell me, think of it and ring me back. So I remembered that in those days you could get fabric photosensitive cloth because some photographers like to put a landscape photograph onto canvas and then frame it so it looked like it was, you know, an image on canvas. And there were boxes of the 2016, you know, photographic material for a canvas with this photographic surface in a business that was behind my studio in Farringdon. So I literally just ran down the road, bought a box of this 2016, letrasetted, for those of you that are old enough to remember what letraset is,
oh
which
my
is
gosh.
Rub down letters. You have to rub down the letter. No typesetting, you know, it wasn't time. I did the rub down letters on a piece of acetate, put it in the photographic enlarger, and exposed this big 2016 piece of canvas and developed it like a photograph, fixed it, ran around to Catherine's studio, which was in Islington, and her seamstresses seam stitched it on the front of the T-shirt dress. Cool. And she jumped in a cab and went to number 10, and that picture was on the front cover of every newspaper the next morning because she was standing there with her coat open. So anyway, so I digress. So that was Brit Row.
I love your yes mindset. I just love it so much.
Then we moved to...
Even these little stories, Drew, are just showing the opportunity that, you know, whether it's 2 hours to go, whether it's you just saying, yes, I am going to make the tea for this company and keep on with the purpose and direction in mind, but just being aware of the connection of the dots and
what's available and how you can try and pull it all together in time. So we then moved to Farringdon Road on next door to the old Guardian building. So we had a 3,500 square foot warehouse with about 25 designers at that point. And then we decided to open, I got nominated for a Grammy. And so
of course you do.
For one of my record sleeve designs for the Alan Parsons project. And so I flew over to LA with my wife. She was my wife then, I think. Yes, she was my wife just. And said to her rather casually, what do you think about coming to live in LA? And she said, wow, that'd be cool. Why? And I said, well, we're doing a lot of work with the American record companies because we'd always design a slightly different sleeve for the American market. And so I want to open a studio in LA. So if you're happy to move to LA, you know, we were newly married, no kids, fantastic. Really? So she said, yeah. So I remember going back and talking to my business partner and said, I think we should, you know, open a studio in LA. And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll obviously be the one going because I'm single and you're married. And I went, no, I thought this through. I want to go. And he said, well, how are we going to make a decision? And I said, well, we'll have to toss a coin, heads or tails. So we flip a coin and I win. So I'm now going to LA. I'm super excited. I get in the car and I drive home and I'm walking up the steps to my house and my wife, Helen, is sitting on the doorstep waiting for me. And she says, you look happy. I said, yep. I said, I've got something really exciting to tell you. And she said, I've got something really exciting to tell you. Yeah. So that was Florence. And as a result, we didn't go to LA. My business partner went to LA and opened a studio there for us. And before I could even go and visit, I had a call from a UK PLC who printed a lot of record sleeves saying that they were interested in buying the company.
Wow.
And I said, you want to buy my company? I had no idea what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know that you could sell a company. I just built this business and it had grown and we were doing what we did and we were having great fun doing it, traveling the world. And so I said, yeah, that sounds interesting, especially when they told me how much they wanted to pay for it. So I rang my business partner and he said, hell yeah, let's sell. So we did. And within 6 months, the company closed the LA office. My previous business partner left the company altogether because he wanted to stay in America because he'd met somebody and, he'd got his life. And I learned at that point that when you sell a business, that is what you do. Although I was ahead, the director of the company, there was always somebody above me. And the meeting that took place, which was you need to close the American office. I had a colleague in London and he said, well, I think we should close it. And I said, well, I don't think we should. And Richard doesn't think we should. So that's 2 against 1. So we're not closing it. And the CEO said to me, go back in that room and make another decision. And that was that. So that was the first indication to me that I wasn't in control of my own destiny. It wasn't necessarily, somebody in charge, but, being able to make the decisions that you thought were appropriate.
For sure.
So I resigned. I bought a CompuServe account in 1993, right at the beginning of the internet, and had taken the idea of starting what we now call a digital agency to the group board. And they'd said, write a board report. And I'd already started to lose the will to live. So I did it. And the message came back, the internet's a fad, it'll never take off. So I thought about it for another 3 or 4 months. And I thought, they're wrong. This is going to be huge. This is my industrial revolution. So I resigned and started I2I in my spare bedroom with a little brick Mac. And I used to take the artwork to the record companies on a SideQuest disc. It was all terribly old school. But eventually found and got another studio in Belgravia, Knightsbridge area. And I2I grew and built some of the very first websites ever. We built the intranet for the House of Commons. We did all the branding for the House of Commons and the House of Lords, which they still use. We built Arthur Anderson's global website. We built a startup called Money World, which went on to be sold for 11 million. So it was very exciting, people coming to us with money saying, we've bought this domain name, build a website for us because we're going to be called Pets to Vets or, whatever they'd come up with. Money World was the most successful one that we helped build.
That's true. Do you think, for the people that are watching, because people are just going to go, oh, well, Drew just seems like one of the luckiest guys that's always in the right place in the right time.
Yeah.
Are you that type of person that, because you have this, the internet's not a fad, and you have this strong belief that it wasn't going to be that, and you carried on with that conviction? Is that something that is innate in you? How can other people smell those trends?
It's a gut feeling for me. So, it might be meeting somebody, or it might be something that triggers a thought in your head, and you think, okay, I mean, a very good case in point is Hopin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
when I Like Minds runs events, in-person events, obviously. So when COVID hit, no more in-person events. So I realized I needed to find an online solution. And with my background in digital, I felt quite confident about knowing what I wanted. So came across Hopin in February 2020 and started using it. And, you make some early mistakes, but we did the lockdown festival in March, I think it was. And then we did it again in April. And it suddenly opened my eyes to the global audience that's out there. And we had people joining from Mumbai and Tokyo and Switzerland. And I was just thinking, wow, I wouldn't normally get these people at an in-person event.
Sure.
Obviously.
Of course.
So,
would you drop the link for Hopin in there in case people want to check it out?
Yeah, I'll do that.
HOPIN.com.
I got it. It's all good.
So, Johnny went on to build, who's the founder of Hopin, went on to secure a ridiculous amount of funding. I think they've now had just over $500 million in funding in the last 12 months, which is an incredible job.
Huge.
And so this is a great example, okay, of you saying, well, how do I connect the dots and how do things come about? Just before lockdown in February, an old friend of mine who was quite senior now in Warner Music rang me and said, listen, I love what you're doing with your business breakfasts in Soho and Mayfair. Would you run a series of business breakfasts for me at Warner Music for the staff? And I said, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to do that. I can curate some really interesting speakers for you, and we'll do one every 2 weeks or one a month or whatever you need. So that was that. And then 2 weeks later, COVID hits. So he then rings me up and he says, look, forget it. I said, I know, it's a shame, but lovely to reconnect with you.
Right.
And so the music industry is now in the back of my mind again after 20 years of not really working in the industry.
Yeah.
Hopin comes along, focused on the conferencing industry and the events industry, and nobody can tour, nobody can gig in the music industry. Why hasn't anybody built something for musicians? And I don't mean Elton John or Dua Lipa or whoever. What about the guys that are trying to play in the local club or the local pub?
Pubs
they're the ones that have really lost their income.
They need it. Yeah.
What if I built a Hopin for music?
Yeah.
So I started thinking about this, and then I rang a few friends in the industry, and they said, this sounds really interesting. Have a word with my opposite number in LA. So we then have a call with the people in LA, and then I ring an old record company boss that I knew who's now a tech investor in San Francisco, and he said, I think this has got legs. Go and build what we call an MVP, which is a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing at the moment. And then I get a call from an artist that I know who says, hey, what are you up to? And I said, well, I'm building this thing. And he said, that sounds amazing. Can I do a gig on it? And I said, yeah, that would be great. You could be my first test session. So, and it's not just kind of who you know. I mean, I'm lucky. I've been around long enough to know quite a number of people, but it's just finding those little.
I think it's more than that. So the thing I want to really pull out from that, because there have been quite a few businesses who haven't necessarily really thrived at all, and in fact have been crushed by COVID. But I think what you're demonstrating, partly around Hopin and sort of saying this, but in explaining the story, what I'm hearing, and this is the offering to all the speakers, authors, and coaches who are, we are in a constantly adapting world, and I think COVID has definitely made us adapt even more. What I love hearing in what you say is the what if thinking that you do, and combined with the gut feel, because I think all of us have a lot of gut feels. But what I really love about you is that you take that gut feel and you go, okay, what if? Who can I have a conversation with that allows me to actually see if this is even an opportunity, and to not actually have any preconceptions about whether it's good or bad, but to just actually feel out the possibility of that. And we always encourage encourage people to really test. If you've got an idea, and if the idea pops in a couple of times, or you've had a couple of signs that actually it pops in, then follow the thread and see where that leads. And I think you're a partly why we've asked you on is you're such a good example of that. And you've not just created, not just taken somebody else's, amazing, hopping is amazing, sort of, but not just taken that, but actually you've gone, how can I make something of that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. As Nike would say, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And I know, I know you very well from your company, We Are Like Minds, with the events that you've done there, and even the breakfast things that you do with We Are Like Minds. So that is very much about that opportunistic thinking, and you have people on there that are business owners that tell their story, their uniqueness, how they've got there. Because you've interviewed so many people, and because you've had lots of people work with you with more We Are Like Minds, what do you see is that thread around people's mindset? What is it that's common that you see within yourself and within them, where people can take these opportunities and run with them, as Helena was saying?
It's passion. It's passion. I've always said, like I said to my children, if you do something you love, it's not a job. You love what you do. So it's almost, making money from a hobby. So if you love, writing, then write a book. If you've got something in you that is burning to get out and tell people about, then put that down on paper or do a podcast. There are lots of ways now to repurpose, I think is a great word, isn't it? So my business breakfasts, I think we're on episode 35, something like that. Somebody approached me the other day and said, do you want a radio show? And I said, I haven't got the time to do a radio show, but if I just took the audio from my business breakfast talks and did a little intro at the front, would that work for you? And they said, yeah, that's great. And so suddenly, boom, you've got a radio show.
That's the thing. It's you being able to be responsive to that and go, well, how can I make that possible? And I love that you're being an inspiration for people, because a lot of people would just turn around and go, oh, I haven't got the time, right? And without doing that added bit of thinking, which is, well, how could I make that possible? So I love that you're using the repurposing piece. And so I just want to keep pulling that out, because I think a lot of people make up that they can't do these things, but you're just such a great example of the thinking that sits behind it.
You can do anything, just think back to when you were a child. All the famous people in the world were all children at some point, and they didn't know that they were going to end up where they are now. They had to learn that. And so all the opportunities are out there. You just need to find your passion and then work out how you can get that into a project or a business that's going to sustain you.
Good. Well, Helena thinks that you are genius, and that is genius.
Thank you very much.
So one of the big things is I mean, obviously, speakers, authors, coaches, we're in the event world, and the event industry has definitely taken a little bit of a battering and has definitely needed to adapt in all sorts of ways. And you've mentioned it, but you haven't really talked about it. So I want to really kind of open it up a bit and say you've kind of created the Great British Business Festival, and the next one is it's happening on the 31st of March. So tell us about that as an opportunity and how you got to run this. Yeah.
So that really came out of an event that exists in the real world called the Great British Business Show, which happens at Excel and has like 20,000 people attending and is very well known. And of course, COVID hit and they just said, we're not doing it. And I thought, wow, why wouldn't you do that online? They just said, we'll do it in June 2021. Well, I think they're probably fine. They're not going to do it in June 21 either.
No.
So we bought the URL, the Great British Business Festival, created a look and a feel that was completely different to theirs, and put it out on the same day that they were going to. So back in November the 18th, I think it was. And let's see how many people come along, and we had, I think, just over 300 people. So obviously not 20,000, but it was profitable. And basically what the idea was to do a digital great exhibition. So we're all going through a really tough time, particularly SMEs, smaller businesses, the 1-man, 2-man, 10-man bands. What if we created a platform, which again, we used Hopin for, where you could showcase your business to the audience that we could bring you? So you provide us with all the digital assets. You don't have to be digital at all. We'll build all of the booths for you. And our job is to get as many attendees to come and have a look around as possible. And if you want to sit in your booth and chat, you can. Or if you've got a video that's up on YouTube or Vimeo, wherever, we can put that video in and it just automatically play. So we ran the festival. We had just over 300 people attend. And it's a free to attend event. And we had a 98.7% attendee turnout, which for a free event completely shocked us. You know, we thought we'd get less than half. And then we saw the stats in the back.
Well, that's kind of what you'd expect normally. You know, if you're using the stats that you'd normally use, you'd be factoring that in. So that must have been shocking.
Yeah, so it was really surprising. And then we saw the average time spent in the event was 600 minutes, which is pretty much all day. So I think what a lot of people do is they keep a tab open and they're sort of listening in the background, like you do on Clubhouse. And we'll get around to Clubhouse in a minute. So this year we're doing it again. March the 31st, we've got over 1,000 people registered, which is fabulous. If we get another turnout like we did last time, that will be amazing. But we'll see. So the idea is,
so we put the link in there for you guys to get your free tickets to attend. And also there's an email address there, because it's not too late. If you, like us, we've got an exhibitor booth there. And if you want to exhibit at the show to get your business in front of these people, there's an email there for you to just contact Drew and ask those questions. But one of the things that we love about Hopin, but also what Drew does, tell us some of the stats that you get.
Tell us about the stats.
The exhibitor booth stuff. And this is the stuff that we love about you, because it shows the value.
Well, I actually did a blog post on it. So rather than bore everybody,
amazing.
Why don't I just share in the chat the stats?
But exhibit, you know, people find it hard a lot of the time to get ROI from exhibiting at a show. A lot of people will spend 4 or 5 grand or even more sometimes on a stand, and then they think that they're going to sell, when really most people should lead gen from a show and then know their ROI on the follow-ups. But what you're giving people is the insight from last year of how long, on average, a person was at a booth for, how long they were in a talk for. These insights are like taking the exhibition industry to another level, because we would never know that information before. In real life, you wouldn't. No, you just have to rely on memory, or have your little clicker.
And in a 1,000-person event, that's actually quite a difficult thing to do.
A difficult thing. And then, of course, the other added thing, as you're doing with this, is you can record them. So then you've got the long tail content. So for your sponsors and for the people that are taking part, you know, they've got the ability to share those workshops again and get more recognition and more connection.
And it's brilliant for your speakers to show that you've been on this stage as part of their speaker show reel, to show credibility. You know, there's so much you can get. So, you know, we highly advise people to just go to the event anyway, the festival anyway, but also jump on the opportunity, because not only do we know that the high caliber of people that Drew's events attract, but you've also got these stats from last year about the engagement is, Kaslina's got her ticket, the engagement that is so high. Because, Drew, just tell us a little bit about your event history background with what you've done before, because I know, you know, we've done some stuff in the past.
So I mean, we started like Minds really with just a half-a-day seminar in Exeter, which was going to be on Twitter, or well, on social media more broadly, but especially Twitter, because it was 2009. So for us, 2008 was when Twitter really came into its own, I think, after that South by Southwest. And amazingly, 220 people turned up, and I just thought, wow, this is a business, is what I thought. So we we'd already built the website, we got the domain name, so we'd opened a bank account to take the ticket fees, you know. So
That's all
it
you
was
need,
just,
really, isn't
that's
it?
all you need. You just need to then form a limited company with the same name, and off we went. So we ran the event again the following, I think 2 months later, and 300 people came, and we doubled the ticket price, and we made it a whole day. And then we did 2 days, and we started getting some fairly serious sponsors like Orange and Nokia. And in fact, when Nokia came along, they loved it so much, they said, will you come and run this in Helsinki for us? So we then jetted off to Helsinki with a group of speakers, delivered a session in central Helsinki all day. And then the following day, I'd said to them, it seems a shame just to bring all these speakers over for one night. Why don't we just keep them there for the Sunday, and we could do a workshop? Is there anybody, you know, over here that would like a workshop? And Visit Finland put their hand up and said, yeah, could you talk to us about how we could market a country using social media? And I said, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. Can you find a venue for us? And they said, yeah, we're Visit Finland. We can find all sorts of venues. You know, what do you want? And they came up with this. Honestly, we would slack-jawed when we turned up to this very low-built modern villa in the middle of the woods in the back of Helsinki. And the door opened, and we got all of these blonde women wearing Bollinger 007 aprons, because they'd had an event, they'd had a Bond event the night before, I think, and they were just reusing it. And they said, welcome to Villa Kataya. And we'd got one of those fireplaces that doesn't touch the ground, you know, that hangs from the ceiling with this picture window overlooking the sea and all of the little islands that they've got. And there was a jetty with a jet ski tied up and a jacuzzi outside on the deck. And we had our own private chefs all day. And so we workshopped for half a day. Then we had this fabulous lunch, and we workshopped the other half of the day, and then delivered the results instantly to the clients. And then we all jumped in the sauna.
Totally love that. So Taruna's wishing that she was with you for sure.
Yeah. We're all like in lockdown, just, you know, wanting to go to
the
Spain.
Lockdown.
These pictures.
There was a funny moment for us. One of our team was Finnish, and he stripped off at the end of the day and ran down the jetty naked and jumped into the sea. And everybody's watching him, and he bobs up, and someone shouted, "How cold is it?" And he went, "That cold." It brought the house down. So yeah, you do get to know your speakers when you're in the sauna, let me tell you.
For sure.
So that was great fun.
But there is, isn't there? And that's one of the things that I think, you know, whether we're, you know, when you're looking at our audience, who are predominantly speakers, authors, and coaches, is there are so many nooks and crannies of new platforms, of features, of things that are coming up in times like this, when it is those adverse times where people start to think outside the box, people start to be problem solvers, new opportunities come up. What have you seen that maybe you could give some insight in of things around the hopping that you just shared, but that maybe speakers, authors, and coaches could think about?
I think you've got to be incredibly disciplined, because, as you say, there are so many platforms out there at the moment, and you have to understand what to allocate your time in doing. And you have to be very good at dismissing a load of stuff. And I know, you know, there's Clubhouse, as we talked about earlier, which can be a huge time suck for you. Just be very strict with yourself. So, you know, I'm running a room every Tuesday night and Thursday night for an hour.
It's a great room, by the way. I'm in it regularly.
Thank you. But that's a couple of hours. It's at 6 o'clock, so it's not really impinging on my day too much. But you know, don't just keep switching it on in the middle of the day and get distracted. You know, if you look at my diary is full of slots, and they're all different colors. So it's, you know, this is BBTV stuff, this is Great British Business Festival stuff, this is Eye to Eye stuff, this is Giggly stuff. So that it's all pre-ordained. Yeah. So the night before, I will make sure that the day is filled And then I've got an alarm on my phone and it goes off and I go, right, I've got to stop that and I've got to start this. And you've got to be really
I think the other thing I'm really hearing is that you have a very good sense of who you are as a person, and the interests that you have. As you say, there's that passion to actively kind of follow that. And I think there is something about being on purpose, i.e., aligned to the things that you find interesting, that then allows you to actually see the opportunities from that place. Because if you're interested in them, then there's that invitation of what can I do with that that's actually in my remit, which is why you can be more disciplined and discerning about things, because you're not pulled pillar to post, because you've got that alignment, right?
Yeah, got structure.
What do you think that is, Drew? At the beginning, when I know we're going to have to come off soon. Yeah. Everyone's loving a colour diary, by the way, so you're inspiring people to start colour coordinating their diaries. Yeah. But with that purpose thing, going right back to, you know, record albums to where you are now, golden thread. What is that for you? What is that thing that joins those companies together, that keeps that golden thread?
So it's obviously it's creating things. So I'm a creative, so I love making stuff, not necessarily physical products, although one day I might do a product. But so, you know, digital design, so building websites, then basically my events now are building websites, building web pages, doing motion graphics for the intro sequences, that's design. I'm learning constantly from my speakers. And it can be as simple as, I think Eric Partaker, I was just having a little chat to him before we were going to go live, and I saw, sorry, that's my phone going off. And he got a kettlebell in the background, and I said, oh, wow, these look cool. He said, yes. He said, I can't go to the gym anymore, so I bought a couple of kettlebells, and every time I see them, I pick them up and I do some exercises. And he said, if I do that 4 or 6 times across the day, I've done a workout.
Yeah.
Nice. It's such a good idea. So I've got orange kettlebells behind the bookcase now.
I totally love that. I have to say, I'm actually on that one myself, because so I've got a thing going that is around every time I put the kettle on, I do 5 or 10 squats.
There you go. Absolutely.
Which is, you know, and it's got that feel.
Discipline.
The kettlebell is actually in the living room, so that's an interesting one too, as is the mini trampoline. But it's exactly that. It's about squeezing in the moment, squeezing stuff into the moment that's aligned and feels doable for you with that possibility mindset, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I know about you, Drew, is that you do surround yourself with awesome people. And so when you come up with an idea, you've got people to soundboard with, you've got experience, you've got expertise, you've got a very exclusive black book of contacts. I know this, but, you know, that's something that you've built up for, you've earned the right. But I think that's the other people, that you don't have to do this alone. And I think
absolutely. And that's really, really important, that you surround yourself with positive people as well. You know, we've all had people say, well, you can't do that. Well, ignore them. You know, somebody said something to me the other day. There was, you know, how many people do we have in the world now? 5 billion, something like that. And one person says you can't do it. What about the other 4,999,000? I think.
I love it. That advice about that person who said to you that the internet was just a fad. Could you imagine if you went down that route, right, and believe that person?
I know. Yeah. No, you've got to believe in what you believe. Not to a ridiculous degree, but test. You know, this is why we do an MVP. You know, I don't know if my Hop In for Music is going to work, but I'm going to test it. And if then it gets a take up, and it'll grow, and people will tell people. Yeah. So it then grows organically. So I hope that's been helpful.
It has. People like Sarah saying, listening to you is very calming and inspiring. So I know that you've got a lot of people thinking about kettlebells as well. As well as what they can do with their own businesses. So we highly encourage you. I'll put the links in again, guys, that if you want to get a ticket, free ticket for the festival, or you want to talk to Drew about potentially exhibiting or speaking at the event as well. I don't know if there's any speaking slots left, but I know there are some exhibition booths. Email you on that link.
There's workshops and exhibition booths available. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's really great. And just thank you so much for bringing your opportunity to everyone here so that they can have that as an opportunity.
My pleasure.
And Sarah's finishing us off with, love this except for the kettlebells. Which is really good. But really, truly, thank you for coming along and being an inspiration. Lots of people are saying that's exactly what they've got from this.
My
And,
pleasure.
you know, we look forward to hearing what else is possible from you over time.
And how this festival goes. We want to hear how your stats improve,
Yeah.
and how we'd love to have a check-in session with you to see how the festival went.
Absolutely. Well, come and join us every Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock.
Definitely
and you meet the speaker and network and have a chat. So hopefully
great.
see you all then.
Thanks, Drew. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.